Hey, this is Linz, and you are watching Support the Scene. Hi everyone, this is Support the Scene, and my name is Linz. Today we have Evil Tongues, and with us is Mike and Jen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming and being here. So could you tell everyone a little bit yourselves about your band and yourselves as a duo?
So we are in the band Evil Tongues. We are an alt-pop new wave duo, originally formed in 2017. During the pandemic, we really used that time to really focus on where we wanted to kind of take this project. It really started out as a passion project for us. We both work full-time in the music industry, so our time is always really like monopolized by work, and the pandemic gave us that free time that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So we really used it to focus on writing and recording and figuring out what this project was, and putting together our vision of where we wanted it to go.
Awesome. It's so important that, when you have that love of music, you've got that musical experience behind you, right? So where did you guys meet? What brought you guys together?
It's funny, we were just talking about this. It was back in 2016. I was playing with this other band at the time called Bloody Diamonds. Mm-hmm. We were just kind of like a dirty rock and roll kind of White Stripes vibe going on. Anyway, we were shooting a music video, and Jen was at the music video shoot with a friend, and she ended up in the video, and that's kind of how we met. Yeah, was like on that day, and it was just kind of by chance, and and then she knew we had other like mutual friends. I was in another band, and she was meeting up with the guitar player afterwards, and I'm like, wait, you know him? Like, what? So yeah.
Well, and I was living in Vancouver at the time, and I'm from Ontario, Southern Ontario originally. Mm-hmm. So I was just out for a couple weeks visiting, and when I was in their video shoot, and so then I went, obviously came back to Vancouver, and then it wasn't really until I moved to Toronto, maybe like a year and a half later, when Mike and I really, became friends, and I moved into like the same neighborhood where he was, and realized that we both really love brunch, and that was kind of
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Hang on, what is your favorite brunch item?
I like a good old classic, like I will go with like the 2 eggs, bacon, toast,
the classic
fries.
meal? Yeah.
If I would have to say my favorite brunch item, I'm very consistent with, I always order this one specific thing every time I go for brunch, and it is a coffee and Baileys.
Ooh. I definitely have to say for myself, I love going to new breakfast brunch places to try their eggs Benny. Test out their hollandaise sauce. So
there was this one place, it was probably my favorite in Toronto, called Starving Artist, and they did everything on waffles. So if you got a Benny, it came on a waffle. If you got a sandwich, the bread was a waffle, and it was phenomenal.
Shout out to Starving Artist. Your waffles, everything's on a waffle there. It's
the best.
Awesome.
So good.
So you guys were, doing all this in Ontario. What made you come out to Vancouver?
Me. So I was living in Edmonton for the last couple of years. So I was in Ontario for 3 years, and then I got offered the production and admin assistant with ConcertWorks and Starlight Room in Edmonton. So I moved out to Edmonton in August of 2019. So like 7 months before going into the pandemic. So my timing was not ideal. And that's kind of where we started really focusing on writing. As I was in Edmonton, Mike was still in Toronto, so we were doing it long distance, and he came out to Edmonton for a month, and we just focused on writing while he was there. And then I just kind of started like dropping the seed a little bit and being like, what are you doing in Toronto? Nothing's open there. Just move out to the West Coast. What else do you have going on? And so we ended up recording with Nigel Aslan out here. So we were coming out here in like end of March. Mm-hmm. And I guess all of my like convincing Mike to move worked. He moved out here at the beginning of March, and then when my lease ended in Edmonton, I moved out here. So I've been back here now since beginning of September.
Awesome.
And I've been here now almost, it will be a year.
This year.
Like next week, so.
Yeah, and are you feeling, even though with COVID regulations and rules, do you still find there's easy ways for yourself to still work on music and be musically connected in the very shut down community that it is right now?
Well, I mean, like I work for a cross Canada concert promoter, so I just focus on music. Like that's just my, in and out every day. Right now, it's just been rescheduling concerts, which I'm going to add to my resume that I'm now professional concert rescheduler.
Fantastic.
Really excited that capacity limits and everything are like lifting, because then it's, it's not just announcing shows and rearranging shows, but it'll actually be, getting to host shows again, which it's been a long time. But I mean, as far as like the local scene sort of like stuff and being involved in it, I think it's been like kind of just hard with the capacity restrictions and no one really like hosting stuff up until this point anyways. So,
so your band name, Evil Tongues, where did that originate from?
The name of a patch on a synth.
Yeah, we were toying with some ideas, and it was one of the first songs that we were writing together back in 2017. We found this patch and it was called Evil Tongues, and we're like, that's cool. Well, that's our name now.
Yeah,
like
so
half jokingly, but then we're like, no, it stuck.
Well, because we kind of half jokingly did it, and then right away I like went onto every social media platform and was like searching. And I'm like, does this exist anywhere? And then I just like secured the name on like everything from like like literally every platform. We have a MySpace even, and we're not using it. But I was like, I'm just gonna lock the name in. Just
we're ready. We're ready for the comeback.
Yeah.
That's good. It's super important to make sure that you don't have to worry about copyright names and stuff like that with your music. You guys have a new song that was just released or coming out. What song is that?
So our debut single, which came out on January 20th, it's called Fine.
Ooh. And what's it all about?
It is really about me having a sort of mental breakdown, I guess, being in Edmonton. Going into like the pandemic, I mean, I had moved to Edmonton for work, right? So it was like I didn't really have like a social circle. I didn't have any family or anything out there. So then going into a pandemic in freezing cold Alberta, and like I didn't have a car out there, so it was like I walked everywhere, and it's like, when you're going down to like -40, -50, you're not really going out. And then there was a lot, because I used to go and I would work at a coffee shops, or I'd go down to the venue and stuff, and so I just got to the point where I was like, I really don't have anywhere to go. So there'd be times where it'd be like a couple weeks where I was just like would realize I hadn't actually seen another person, because I just wasn't leaving my house, because I started getting groceries delivered and stuff too, because I was just trying not to go anywhere, because also Alberta in a pandemic is like a whole other world in itself. So it was really just about this, me trying to convince myself that everything was like fine, while I'm like also just like, mentally deteriorating. I was dealing with like, I suffer from anxiety, and it was going a little crazy, and then I had this like depression on top of it, and like the first July of the pandemic, my grandpa passed away in Ontario, which I obviously couldn't go back for, so I got FaceTimed in to the funeral. So it was like, there was just a lot of heavy life stuff on top of like, processing all the pandemic stuff and then everything else going on in the world at the time. And so I just like, was battling anxiety, depression, insomnia, and was just like not sleeping, and was kind of wandering around my house talking to myself, and I would like spend 4+ hours just like lying on the floor staring at the ceiling, not even really thinking about anything necessarily, but just like wouldn't even realize I'd been down there for that long, and that was just kind of my thing. I started telling people, and they would message me, and like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm on the floor. Like, okay, let's get you out of the house now. But so that kind of just became like, not the best coping mechanism, but it was like coping mechanism, I guess. So that's essentially, was just about that. Like, it's, you know, the music industry takes so much of your time, and I've had to sacrifice, you know, relationships with people and time with family, and, you know, missing holidays and birthdays and weekends, because you're constantly having to prioritize. You know, if you get a call to go work festival, or you get a call to go sell merch, or whatever, right? It's like, it's such a competitive, time consuming, competitive, and really demanding. And so watching something that I've literally like sacrificed everything in my life for be taken away from me in less than a 24-hour period really like messed with my head as well. And so yeah, it was just, you know, me, I guess, trying to process and cope and deal with this like loss of the life that I had and the life that I worked for, but also just loss of normal life in general, plus like loss of my and it was just yeah.
It just pulls at you in different angles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the world of the anxiety and depression of what COVID has done to many artists
mm-hmm.
has really, and I feel and talk to many artists themselves, have really gone through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope, you know, with music that it's really opened yourself up to pull towards, I guess, more music
mm-hmm.
That was different than the other music that you had going on in your life. And it's exciting, you know, like you really see of how you evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that's probably where the direction you were trying to push yourself was, from like what was to what you've got now and where you want to take yourself.
Yeah, and it was also me too. Like I was very conscious of the fact that when we went into the pandemic, I acknowledged the fact that I suddenly had all this like free time, and I was like, I don't want to come out of this and not have done anything with it. I don't want to come out of this and be in the exact same spot I was when we went into the pandemic and everything shut down. So I was part of the group that formed the Canadian Independent Venue Coalition, and we started advocating to the government for emergency support for venues. I took a copywriting course with UBC. I took health and safety courses with the World Health Organization. I took Event Safety Alliance training. Like I was
Amazing.
like, I was doing all this stuff, and then I went to Mike and I was like, we're doing the band thing or it's not happening. And I think I just went into this mode where I was like, I need to keep myself so excessively busy, otherwise I'm going to just mentally collapse. And so people constantly call to check in on me, and they're like, oh, you're doing so well, we don't have to worry about you. And I was like, oh no, I'm a mess. Like I'm like literally falling apart, but I'm like, you know, overcompensating for that by like doing everything. But then then people weren't really checking in on me so much, and I was like, yeah, during the day I'm like doing all of this stuff, and then nighttime I'm just like lying on my floor staring at the ceiling being like, what is life?
And that's what's so great about the strength that'll come out of you by pulling through and flip of the switch,
mm-hmm.
right? What really drew you into feeling convinced by her to be part of this?
It didn't really take much. I mean, a lot of people had a really rough time. For me, I spent the pandemic I used that as a really good, healthy opportunity to just kind of catch up. I really ran myself thin. So, I was getting my mental and physical health back in check. I was in a Zen mode. I was doing my thing. I was very content, just kind of internalizing and just, shutting the world out and just kind of doing my own thing. And yeah, it was a really perfect time to like start writing again when Jen started bugging me. She's like, hey, we gotta, start writing. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is a perfect time to do it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Where do you guys see yourselves moving forward together in music?
Hopefully we'll take it as far as we can,
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what about some baby steps? Like what do you guys have right now for everyone? Like you have how much music?
So we have the first single that's out. We have 2 other singles that we're sitting on. Mm-hmm. So the next one will be coming out Sometime maybe like end of March, early April. We haven't set an actual like set date as of yet.
This is a loose news drop.
Yeah.
Surprise. There's more.
Yeah, and then the third one, sometime after that. And we're also working on new material while we're doing with all of that, and we'll be putting together whether we do like full-blown music videos or we do more lyric videos or animated videos with each single. Our plan is to have something accompany that, because otherwise we miss out on YouTube. If we don't put a video out, you just bypass that platform, which I think is a wasted opportunity.
And now that shows are here to stay again.
Live shows.
Live shows.
Yeah, we'll be looking at playing some shows, festivals if we can, later this year. Summer, fall. So we're really looking forward to looking into those opportunities.
Yeah. Have you guys either individually or maybe tried yourselves doing some live streaming of your music?
We haven't as of yet. For one, we just have the one single that's like out. So, unless we want to give away all of our songs in a live stream, which we don't really want to do, because then I feel like you lose the hype of like having that actual like release. Mm-hmm. So I think that where we're at right now, we want to spend more time just kind of building a foundation and building like our brand of who we are as artists. Absolutely. And get to the point where we have that engagement from people. So when we do if we live stream or we do a live show, we already have people who are like following us. So it's not like we're gonna live stream and have like just our moms watching, which there's nothing wrong with that, but ideally you have more than your parents watching you play a show.
So for everyone that's looking to find you guys, what are your social platforms and media tags?
We are on all of the social platforms because I made sure that I secured our name on everything. For the most part, on every platform, we're just at Evil Tongues. I think on
2 words with a space or one whole word?
One whole word, Evil Tongues. The only ones that are different are Twitter and TikTok. It's at Evil Tongues and an underscore.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, for everyone out there, is there anything that you guys would like to say for, going through a lot of the pandemic hump? What would you say to help them, keep pushing and driving to get to, that strong point, that flip of the switch that, you guys got to?
I think especially like if you're trying to be an artist and stuff, no matter how hard life kind of gets and what you're dealing with, you really need to, a part of your brain needs to acknowledge the time that you have. And the fact that like I was saying, like this, I acknowledged really right at the very beginning, where I was like, as someone who works in the industry full time, I'm like, I will never have this amount of time to work with ever again. Like it's just not gonna happen. Once everything goes back to normal, my life goes back to normal, I'm never gonna have just like a year where I'm essentially being paid to stay home, So it was like, you really need to be able to kind of see past everything that's happening in your life, and also be able to pull out and be like, okay, I know that this is going on. I know I need to like focus on my mental health, but I also need to take advantage of the positives that I have. And that for me was a positive, where I'm like, there's something that I've always wanted to do and I haven't done it because I haven't had time. And I'm like, I've literally been gifted the time to do that.
Mm-hmm. It's good. And for you?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines of what Jen just said, like, especially from an artist standpoint, like, at the end of the day, no matter what, you still have your artistry, whatever you're doing, no matter what field, like, and yeah, we had the time,
Mm-hmm.
so not, a lot of people, you can't always just be like, all right, I have the time, I got to do it. It doesn't work like that, but if you can really bring yourself around and be in the right headspace for it, like it's a great time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, into your heart and into your head, because sometimes your head can psych you out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also with music too, it's like, it's it's a way of like processing, and it's a way of like healing yourself and just working through and processing everything, right? Because it's whatever you're feeling or whatever you're going through, just like let it all come out in your music instead of sitting in your head and turning you into a ball of depression and mental health mess.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being on here. Really appreciate it and your time. I'm looking forward to hearing more from you and all your next new releases. So
thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Linz, and this is Support the Scene. Take care, everyone. Bye. Thanks for watching. This is Support the Scene. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, follow, and share.